Is if you're having a tough time, you know, like a couple of tough hours or starting to get a bit down on yourself, it might be like 3, 4, 5 p.m, you haven't got a sale yet, still your numbers are pretty close, like there or thereabouts, you haven't got the result yet, then the notes are there, so that's what you want to reflect on. So if you're having some challenges, just literally stop, get off the site, even if you're just sitting at one of the park benches at a Countdown or Woolies, or you jump in a car or something like that, have a breather, and then just go, all right, looking at my notes, reflecting, is there anything I think I could proactively work on? And just try to be a bit logical about it, because emotions will get us sometimes, and sales is a balance between logic and emotion, right? So, especially with charities, we're doing something that is quite emotional, and if we're doing things like Heart Foundation, you know, even Plunkett, like really looking after kids, and some pretty big emotions go along with that. And for us, when we're trying to do sales, we're pretty hung up on hitting our goals, and the emotions come along with that pressure as well. So just make sure you have those systems in place. The tip I wanted to go through this morning, I got a couple of things from a trainer that we actually pay. He came into our sales office about a month or 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he went through some stuff, so I got some tips here for you guys. The first one's a mentality tip, and it's just on focus. So it's on focus in the field. No worries, that's good. Take it with you now. Thank you. Good. Okay, so focus in the field, really, really important. The biggest, probably, distractor in the field is stolen focus. And there's a few different things that come into that. So it just takes away from your attention span in the field. And these days, with technology, our attention spans are pretty small. I would recommend putting your phone somewhere that you can't feel it in your pocket vibrating all day, or put it on like silent so that it doesn't vibrate or do not disturb. Or some guys will even, like Lou used to sometimes just be like, hey man, I need to fucking hustle this afternoon, so he'll call me at 2 or 3, we'll go through his KPIs, give him a focus, and then he'll be like, I'm just going to put my phone on flight mode for the next 4 hours and just get to work, you know? Because sometimes that little message, you check your phone, by default you're freaking scrolling on Instagram by accident or TikTok, whatever you guys use, you know, just without even realizing, yeah? So just make sure that you do that, and then when you're thinking about things like work messages are one thing, and I know we post on the WhatsApp chat, I'd rather you forgot to post your sales updates and then didn't check your phone but got your result, than post your updates all the time, but then you got stuck on there and you were scrolling for a bit, you know what I mean? So try not to use your phone too much. But partners and family members, they're the worst, cool? With all due respect, but you need to sometimes explain to them how your day works, and you need to have focus while you're not just at an office where you can check your message. But in saying that, I know people that work corporate jobs that if they get caught checking their phone, they're in massive trouble. So if you try and act like you're not allowed to check your phone, apart from quickly doing your updates, you'll have a much better day in the field. Cool? So I would tell your partners, family, friends about how your day runs, and you might be able to contact them once or twice throughout the day, but you can't just be checking your phone all the time. If something urgent comes up and it is actually serious, just think like, is there something I can do about this straight away to take away the distraction? So it might be just a quick phone call with a partner or family member or something like that, and just get that, hash it out and get it out of the way, and then you can kind of focus on the rest of the day. But if it's nothing that's urgent or you can't take care of it straight away, then you just got to explain to that person you've got to get on with the day. Cool. So especially for me, like for family, and I've been married to my wife for a long time now. It's coming up 15 years. Pretty crazy this weekend. But like at the start, I had to explain to her I'm busy, like I've got to work and I'm doing it for you, you know. So like you might think I'm trying to ignore you during the day, but I'm actually doing this for you. So that's something that's important to explain as well. So make sure you do that. And I would just use a skill called, this is in a healthy way, we actually spoke about this morning, compartmentalization. Yeah, it's given a bad name sometimes, but it's about addressing things when they need to be addressed rather than trying to address everything at once all the time. Cool? So if something's going on personally, sometimes you need to be able to park that for the day so you can focus on work. Or something comes up throughout the day that's a major, take that phone call, send that message, get it out of the way quickly, and then you can focus again. So you just gotta have this hat on where as soon as you walk in this building, there's 100% work focus. As soon as you get to the field, we're on, rather than like having that hybrid of like trying to take care of the personal stuff and the work stuff. But same goes at the end of the day, when you get home, try not to focus on work at all, and just focus on partner, family, that kind of stuff. Because otherwise, if you think about your personal shit at work, you're doing work and injustice. But if you're at home and you're taking work with you to home, it's not fair on your partner and family either, you're doing them an injustice. So you gotta have that barrier where it's still okay to talk about work and stuff like that, but you wanna try and have that barrier where it's like work time and personal time. Cool? Could be fully switched on, fully switched off. And same with my kids, when I get home, my day is usually pretty full on from about 7:30 in the morning till sort of 2, sometimes 3 p.m. And then I'm dad from like 3 to about 6, 7 p.m. And I still do a bit of work, but I try to be like focused on my kids. Because when they're on my phone, it makes them look pretty unimportant. It's not really fair on them. But then 7 o'clock, I'll jump back into some work and do some shit later on at night. So I'm still organised for the next day, because that's when they're in bed. Do you know what I mean? So make sure you got that like on or off switch. You're one or the other. Compartmentalization. But B.O.B. Bob, bag of bullshit. That's what we've all got. We've all got emotional baggage, right? So leave Bob at the door. Don't bring him in. Okay. A little bit of a mentality tip for the office is think about the questions that you ask in terms of like result focus or system focus. So if you've come in the morning and I'm catching up with Matthew and it's just been his first day yesterday, if I say, how was your first day? It's a pretty big risky question because it opens him up to saying, shit, or terrible, I didn't do any sales. Because he's thinking, new people generally will think in terms of results rather than processes. So instead I could be like, how did your KPIs go on your first day? What were your numbers like? Or how did you find your mentality throughout the day? Or what do you think was working for you? What are some things you want to work on? Try and think about those kind of questions rather than just asking about sales results. Cool? Because we're all going to have our own battles mentally throughout the week, and sometimes people will be on like 2 sales by Friday and still end up with 12. Because they did 6 on Friday and then like 4 or 5 or 6 on Saturday as well. But sometimes people will do like 6 on a Monday and then like do 1 or 2 throughout the week and then finish on a, do you know what I mean? We'll have different struggles and challenges, so try and think about the systems. And then the last tip here I've got for you guys is just your habits. So think about your routines. What's your routine look like? And if you're newer, you'll have to probably try and figure out a new routine because this business is going to change a few things probably, it might be different hours or that kind of thing. So ask yourself, what's my routine look like, my day to day, my week to week? And you got to consider these things in your routine. You got to consider your learning. You got to consider your physical health. You got to consider your mental health. You got to consider your spiritual health, your family time, your partner time, all these kinds of things. You got to figure out like, do I have time for all of them? And if you don't, you just need to be able more organized with your time and figure out how to fit them all in, because you can do it. And then you got to ask yourself: is my routine effective? Is it reliable? Is it sustainable? Can I do this routine week in, week out, long term? And I used to have, when I was in the field a lot, I used to have a city routine for when I was working in Auckland, and a road trip routine for when we were on a road trip. So if you don't have those two, you can't stick to your city routine when you're on a road trip. And then I used to end up like just not going to the gym on a road trip, or not having time for myself. I just end up spending too much time with the team, which is fun, but you need to have time by yourself sometimes as well. So just those kinds of things. So think about those. And then eventually it'll become hardwired. Cool? So your brain has neural pathways. And I'm not a brain scientist, but I've learned this from some things over the years. So it's a little bit like, this is a little analogy, you can have a go at this one. But it's like if you're trying to find your way through a field of grass initially. So at the start, when you're walking along through the grass in like a meadow or a field that's never been trodden before, as you're walking, you're kind of going to flatten some of the grass with your footsteps, right? So the grass is upright, there's lots of grass, you can start flattening some of the grass. It's a little bit hard to navigate, especially if the grass is like up to your knees, and you might like come across a rock you trip over because you didn't see it, or things like that. It's going to be some shit, maybe a little rush in the ground, or maybe a swamp or something like that because you couldn't see it. But as you keep walking that path, like if you did that every day, the grass would flatten a bit more and more. You'd be able to see a bit more, you'd be able to see that rock, you'd probably put a path around the rock, like a bit of a bridge over the stream, something like that. And you can go a little bit faster on the path because you can see where you're going. So it's a little bit like our neural pathway. Eventually the grass wears out if you walk on it enough times and you make a little trail. It's like a dirt trail, like a little skinny track, cool. eventually that trail becomes more of a track, and you know, maybe you could like pull a cart behind you and, you know, carry a wheelbarrow or something like that, and it becomes more of a bigger trail. And that track eventually wears into a road. That road could eventually turn into a highway. And this is how like Romans built the highways back in the day. And that's the same as like a neural pathway. So it starts out with a path that feels unfamiliar. The grass is long, doesn't feel right. You might trip over a few things along the way. But if you can kind of like tap into that with your routine, and even if it feels uncomfortable for a bit, if it feels like it's effective, reliable, sustainable, then it's probably a good routine. Cool. Okay, that's it. So today's training's finished. We'll wrap that one up, and I'll just double check with TJ Wes if he's sorted for you. And Matthew, you're cruising, mate. You can go stop.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And then, guys, I'm not in tomorrow, so I think Lou will help with setups